Take a look at what's making headlines in the international papers. Alison Sargent is back with us. Hi, Alison.
Sure.
We'll be starting in Iran, where we have international reaction from that devastating earthquake that happened at the weekend.
That's right. That was along the border with Iraq, and the shaking was felt in the capitals of both countries. Over 400 people were killed in that earthquake, the vast majority of them in Iran. That makes it, in number of deaths, the worst earthquake the world has seen this year. Now, the Tehran Times talks about a deadly quake that claims hundreds of lives. Thousands more, of course, have been injured, and many thousands also are without homes. The destruction that was done to one apartment building, actually, you can see on the front page of an Iranian paper, Sharg. They call it a palace of sorrow. This housing complex is in the district of Kermanshah. That was the district in Iran that was the hardest hit by that earthquake. Another Iranian paper, Etemad, expresses a message of solidarity with the district on their front page. They say, "You are not alone in Kermanshah."
And moving to the US then, and that story we heard about a little bit earlier, the correspondence between Donald Trump's son and WikiLeaks.
That's right. This correspondence took place via private Twitter messages, and The Atlantic got a hold of copies that were turned over by Donald Trump Jr.'s lawyers to investigators who are looking into Russian meddling in the election. They call it secret correspondence between Donald Trump Jr. and WikiLeaks. Now, these messages are largely one-sided, as The Atlantic points out. They were mostly sent by WikiLeaks, trying to get the Trump campaign to work with them by doing things like promoting documents that they were releasing. They also, though, made some weirder requests, such as they wanted Julian Assange to become the ambassador, the Australian ambassador to the United States. The Atlantic notes, though, that while Trump Jr. mostly ignored the messages, he sometimes seemed to act on the requests. At one point, he actually tweeted links that WikiLeaks had sent him. And since the story broke, actually, Donald Trump Jr. has himself tweeted the entirety of these messages. So you can go read them for yourselves on Twitter if you'd like. He says one of the congressional committees chose to selectively leak them. Now, of course, these messages are news to us and to the American public, but the investigators looking into Trump campaign's ties to Russia already knew about them, and that investigation is ongoing.
Okay, and in more Russian-related news, the TV channel RT, it's been forced to register with US authorities as a foreign agent.
That's right. This is RT, a kind of Kremlin-backed channel in Russia. This means that the channel will now have to label all of its output in the US as coming from a foreign government. Now, this is a law in the US that was originally used to target Nazi propaganda. The channel had a deadline of midnight last night to register, and RT's editor, the woman you see here pictured in the Moscow Times, she said the channel preferred to register than to face a criminal case. Meanwhile, Russian newspapers are reporting that not just US channels like CNN, but actually all foreign media, such as maybe even Deutsche Welle, they could face retaliation from the Russian government in the coming days.
And staying then in the US, several Republican politicians, they're grappling with accusations of sexual harassment.
All right, this article comes from Time magazine. It's about former President George H.W. Bush. A woman has come forward saying he grabbed her butt at an event when she was only 16 years old. She's actually the sixth woman to come forward with a story about Bush Sr. Grabbing her behind in the past month. Bush's lawyers have in part kind of explained the actions by the fact that he's been using a wheelchair for the past several years. So the idea there, I guess, is that the height difference makes it easier for his hands to become misplaced. But as you can see in this photo taken at that event many years ago, you know, he is upright next to this young girl who is to his left. Now, this latest allegation against the former president, it's worthy of noting, comes at a time when Roy Moore, who's a Republican candidate vying for a seat in the Senate, he is facing multiple allegations also of sexual misconduct against teenage girls.
And finally, Alison, more on that apocalypse in Italy.
That's right. We've been talking about it all morning, the Italian apocalypse, as many Italian papers are calling it. Italy failed to qualify for the 2018 World Cup, tying to Sweden last night. La Gazzetta dello Sport has just one word on its front page. You can see fine. It's over. This is the first time in 60 years Italy will not be present at the World Cup. It's also finished for Italian goalkeeper Gianluigi Buffon, who you see there in that photo. In tears, he announced his retirement. He said he was sorry for all of Italian football. Buffon, though, is not alone. Everybody out, says Corriere dello Sport on their front page today. Several players have followed Buffon in resigning, and the team's manager says he is also considering it. So really a history-making loss in Italy last last night. I pulled out one of the memes that papers reported was making the rounds on social media. You can see they list the greatest Italian defeats. We go all the way from the fall of the Roman Empire to last night's game.
Okay, thank you, Alison. That's Alison Sargent there with a look at the international papers.